Well, if you've been looking at the SCV Water website, or you've been looking at the signal, you'll see that SCV wants you to use less water. They want you to carefully measure out every drop, while they waste millions of gallons every day by not recycling. Even at the time of the last urban water management plan, when they claimed that we were using 86,000 acre feet a year, which is approximately 60 million gallons a day, and the sanitation district was still reporting about 20 million gallons a day that they're throwing in the river. If I remember correctly, they are recycling 45,000 gallons a day, or 450,000 gallons a day, which is quite a bit less than 20 million. So, you know, it's annoying to go to some of these public meetings, like the discussions of the urban water management plan, and listen to these guys try to soft pedal everything and how everything is wonderful, and they've got it all under control, and then 6 months later they go, oh, life's changed. Because the real dry year was last year, not this year. And they would have known that at the time of the urban water management plan. So now all of a sudden we're in the worst drought in 1,200 years. I don't know how they know that. I didn't think any of them were that old. But now Sarah, who was the same person who was telling us they had everything under control 6 months ago, is saying we got a real problem. So question for Sarah is, how come you did not know about this problem 6 months ago when your team was trying to sell the urban water management plan, while saying that SCV Water, and this is what they said, had enough resources for us to feel comfortable that even if state water was shut off, they had enough water for 3 years? I'd have another question. If they're saying that they have to go to stage 2 reduction, meaning they don't want you to water every day, want you to water every other day, no more than 10 minutes a day, right? Does that restriction include discontinuing to connect new customers until the problem goes away? I haven't heard that. Have you? So let me get this straight. We don't have enough water. You have to use less, but we're gonna supply new customers. And this was something that was in the signal on the 17th, when one of the people from SCV Water said, it may be that the public doesn't want to hear we're in a drought, but frankly, I think most folks would prefer to have a relatively mild plan, so to speak, today than for 3 years from now having some unbelievable severe restrictions. We didn't act early enough. You know what? You didn't act early enough. You should have acted 10 years ago when you knew you had this problem. And in fact, you should have been adding more recycled water continually through that time. Because, up until recently, now they have. By the way, have you ever been to SCV Water's website? Everything they have, if paper and black ink could fix a problem, everything would be fine. You go into their water recycling plan, and you got to wade through 20 pages through the index of what's in it before you get in it. It's crazy. But you're right. The public is tired of hearing this, because whenever we're talking about new developments, you're claiming everything is okay, only to be followed a little later with the Chicken Little episode of the fact that the sky is falling and you have to let your lawn die. So from the 2020 water report, water supply output in 2021, total valley-wide water district demand, is projected to be approximately 86,000 acre feet. Now, 86,000 acre feet is 17 million gallons a day more than 68,000 acre feet. And 68,000 acre feet, I believe, is what they told us 6 months ago in the urban water management plan. It is expected that water demands in 2021 will continue to be met with a mix of water supplies that primarily includes local groundwater, ongoing conservation programs. So they're telling you right at the beginning, and even when times are good, they don't have enough water. You have to use less so they can supply new customers. That's what they're telling you. Some increase in demands is anticipated with continued growth in the service area as well as the overall dry conditions encountered in 2021. You remember, it wasn't too long ago, we talked about how many new homes are planned in our valley. So it's not just a little bit of growth, it's a lot of growth. SCV Water anticipates having more than adequate supply to meet all the water demands in 2021. That was their water report from 2020. 86,000 acre feet was not the number SCV Water claimed when they presented the Urban Water Management Plan. And you can see here that 86,000 acre feet, an acre foot of water is 325,851 gallons. Let's talk in acre feet so we can confuse everybody. Divided by 365 is 76 million gallons per day. 6 months ago, they were saying we use 60 million gallons per day. And it's a problem. When you use these numbers, and they sound humongous, you have to think about how they're used. So when someone says, how much water do you use in your home compared to landscaping? How do you find that out valley-wide? Well, it's a fairly easy thing to do. What you do is you find out how much water is going through the sanitation district, because that's the water that's going through your house. And up until just a short time ago, it was 20 or 21 million gallons a day is going through the water treatment plants. 60 million gallons a day is the total use. So that says 1/3 of the water used goes through your home, and the other 2/3 go through landscaping. But is this our fault? They keep saying it's not their fault. SCV Water claims it's their responsibility to provide supplemental imported water to meet the needs of current and future water users located in the valley. Now this part really pisses me off. SCV Water is not responsible for planning future growth in the Santa Clarita Valley. The County of Los Angeles and the City of Santa Clarita have that responsibility. So don't blame me, go blame them. And if you go and go to the next city council meeting and say, how come there's not enough water? What they'll tell you is, don't blame us, blame SCV Water. It's their responsibility to do water. So it's kind of a joint responsibility. Anybody here applied for a permit to either build a house or to remodel their house? When you do, you'll find certain things happen. One thing is that you go to the city for the permit. And then you have to go visit the school district, because they want to make sure you're not adding a bedroom. And then you have to go to the water district, because they want to make sure you're not adding a bathroom. The whole idea is that SCV Water doesn't just arbitrarily give everybody, or they're not supposed to, arbitrarily give everybody a will serve letter. It says, yeah, well, you want to build a whole bunch of houses on Vista Canyon Ranch? Sure, no problem. We'll give it to you. You're supposed to understand that they have enough water to supply those guys. But they tell us every time they do not. Because they say they only have enough water if you use less. So that would be my question to them. Why do you provide will serve letters when you do not have enough water to meet the standards of our current customers? And you know what? There's something they're going to tell you that's really right. Current new customers will use less water than old customers. You know that? True. Come to my house. My house has a front yard. It also had parkways, which up until quite recently were planted with grass. Then go to houses built 10 years later. They don't have any parkways. Then go to houses that are being built today in Vista Canyon Ranch or up in the Five Knolls project, and you'll see they don't have a front yard. And how did they get away with that? Get away with that by the developer forming an HOA for his development or her development, and then they don't have to comply with the city codes for development. So if you want to build a house, one, Oh, you have to have a front yard. You have to have front parkways. But if they want to build 50 or 100 or 200, they form an HOA because they're the only people there. And then they define what they're going to build. So if you go over to look at what was built by KB Homes in Vista Canyon Ranch, you'll see they got maybe 3 feet in the front, 5 feet on the back, and 5 feet on the sides. That's it. But what the real problem is that over 20 years ago, the state of California, there was a judge who decided to stop pumping water through the Delta because of the Delta smelt. Some Delta smelt were being trapped in the pumps and were being killed. So they stopped pumping. And then there was talk about, well, we'll build a peripheral canal around the Delta. Remember that one? Or let's build some tunnels underneath the Delta, and we'll get this water pumped through. It's never happened. And it has decimated agriculture in the Central Coast. And the Central Coast has now overpumped their aquifer to the point where their ground is sinking. So it is a problem that originated in Sacramento. And so what are they doing with all that excess water that they cannot store in Northern California? They dump it in the ocean. And problem number 2 is that SCV Water and the city of Santa Clarita have not used resources that were available to them to help resolve the issue. So you see all these medians that are being, all up and down Soledad as you drove here. And every time they put a median in the ground, they say, oh, we put in purple pipe. And purple pipe signifies recycled, non-potable water. But they don't connect it to anything because there isn't any pipes bringing that water to them. So what the hell good is it? But they brag about it all the time. And our water companies, both current and past, haven't been using it either. To some extent, the water treatment plant is on the west side of the valley, over past Valencia. So some of the developers in Valencia have took and ran some pipes, and so the golf courses on the west side, they're really nice and green because they're using some of this recycled water, but you're not getting any of it. And every time we talked about it, we had a water manager for years, Dave Masnada. He'd say, oh, it's too expensive. We'd have to put pipes in the ground. That's just too expensive. Well, you know what? Things are too expensive when they are readily available. When they start to become scarce, then you say, well, how come you didn't spend the money? So in this case now, they have a recycled plan, but it's moving at a snail's pace, and they're taking some of their money and they want to build a theme park instead so that they could explain to us how important it is that we save water. This is simply about will serve letters also. It's not my job, and that prevails everywhere. City claims they do not control how much water is available and will not curb growth. So as long as SCV Water provides developers will serve letters, SCV Water claims continued growth and limiting connections is not their responsibility, it's someone else's. Point fingers at everybody else. And I got to tell you what, these people are elected by us, and they're certainly not helping us out. And I think the fourth problem is that SCV Water and the city of Santa Clarita have become sales managers for new development. Well, new development is important. Uncontrolled development is going to kill us. And if staff members are not being allowed or are afraid to do their jobs and speak freely, we need to find the source of the problem and fix it. So the state comes down and says, you need to plan for 500,000 people to live in this valley by a certain date. And right now we're up to what, 270,000 in the city and another 70,000 in the county? And that's not enough. So you're starting to see a lot of new developments. And it's just like if you've been reading the Signal and you've been listening to Mr. Horton, he's all happy that we're going to have to go up. I don't know about you guys, but I'm done living in apartments. So the solution to this problem is rested with our elected officials. That's where all this comes from. That as far as I think, as far as my opinion is, they love the developers because developers finance their elections. And that's true. And if you don't believe it, when this next election takes place, go look up who contributed the $1,000 donations to the incumbents' campaigns. And how easy is it for an incumbent to go to a developer and say, you're going to support me? If you don't support me, it might not be good for you in the future. We need to vote people like that out of office and find out people who will. Now, I'm going to give you a little extra because I just reduced my turf acreage by about 1/3. And I'm going to admit to you, I did not do it only to save water. I did it because the water's gotten so hard, I wanted to stop watering cars on my street because it leaves these big hard water stains on the sides of cars. And I have a metal fence around my property. It's not that big, but it's still a fair metal fence. And it went in after my turf, so I water it and it rusts away. And I'd like to preserve it and create less maintenance. So what I've done is I pulled out the turf from my from my parkways. This is in the front of my house, and to reduce the amount of dirt there, I bordered it in pavers, which wasn't cheap, because as you can see, here's the side. I'm on the corner, so it's a long ways down there. And I put they put in a drip system and natural plants, and then along the border inside the fence and under the fence, I put pavers in so that I could stop watering the fence. So here I am. I've reduced 30%. Not going to help. And there it is under the fence. So I don't think you can do enough for them until everybody has rocks in their front yard. And then probably won't be enough either. Is there any questions about what's happening in the water supply? Yes, sir.
The parkway, isn't that city property or is that your personal property?
That is not city property. You own, in Santa Clarita, you own the property to the street. Santa Clarita will maintain the sidewalks, but it's your property. Someone falls on it, it's you, right, who suffers the liability. So no, it is not city property. And if you go, I live on an intersection, and if you go catty corner my intersection, and you go down down that next cul-de-sac, you'll see they don't have parkways. So I mean, I can pull out the city codes that says, yeah, you got to have these things, but it's not true. Now, I thought you might ask me what would happen because I put pavers in and reduce the amount of growing area. But you only have to plant 50% of that area. And so I made sure that we had a 50% left.
The other question, Alan, Santa Clarita Water Company, what geographic area do they service? What areas? Well,
they basically serve the city of Santa Clarita. I don't know, do they serve the valley? Do you know? No, just within the city of Santa Clarita. The entire city. And it's made up of a joining of our, what was it, 4 water companies? Yeah, here again, they said, well, we consolidate all this, and we're going to save you lots of money. Anybody's water bill gone down?
Yeah, that consolidation only took a couple of years ago, and you probably haven't seen any reduction in
Oh, yeah. And then just recently, what? They had a person that left?
Right, and they were going to reduce the board numbers, but instead they just appointed somebody else.
Right, and so they appointed a previous board member that got that didn't make the last election. So this is insane. You can see it at the water district. You can see it at the city of Santa Clarita. The sanitation district is made up of city elected officials plus a county elected official, and in each case, it's the same people. Yes, sir.
Could you go over again the verified number of percentage between home use and landscaping use? That was very interesting, and it sounded like you could just go and verify that using the city's own site.
Well, the way that all came up was when the sanitation district was in the process of incorporating UV disinfection and salt removal, which caused our bills to triple. So they tell us you can go online and you can see what the amount of water that is discharged into the river from the sanitation district. And the last time I did that, it was 21 million gallons a day.
What year was that?
That was just 6 months ago. And then you can go to the water company and see how much is the total amount of water they supply. And 6 months ago, they said it was 68 million gallons, 68,000 acre feet a year. And this year, and now they're saying it's 86. So, but still, 20 to 60 is a third. 21 to 86 isn't that much different. So if in fact you were short 20 or 30 million gallons, if you were 20 or 30%, and you reused the water that's going through the houses, then you wouldn't have to go get it from the ground or from, and even though if you go, you should go take a tour of the water treatment plant. And when they talk about how they treat the water, when the water comes out of the sanitation district plant, it's pure enough to drink. But you're not allowed to. So, but they claim they still treat it as non-potable water. And so, if you just took that water and used it for landscaping, on the medians, on the even in homes, it would make a big difference. Even if you started out just in the medians, in large users like the golf courses, parks, they are starting to use it in Central Park. It would make a big difference. And I, at least you could say they're making a good attempt to fix this. But I was told that there already is a pipe going all the way down Soledad, which is unused, that could be used. I don't know how true it is, but if it is true, why aren't we doing it? And you know what? Here, I'll give you a couple of others. You know where the Canyon Country Library is, right? Okay. When they built that Shangri-La development above it, they disturbed an underground spring. In order to keep that hill stabilized, they pumped water out from underneath it. And originally, they were pumping that water out and they were putting it in the river. Well, the Water Quality Board, the unelected bureaucratic people, told them they couldn't do it. Fined them for doing that. Said it wasn't good enough quality to put back in the ground. It just came out of the ground, didn't do anything with it, right? So they put it in the sewer. If you do that, so there's some water. Over by North Oaks Park, just below North Oaks Park, there's an underground spring that got disturbed, and they were having water coming up through the sidewalks. They pumped water out of there as well. And right across the street in Soledad from the Burmite facility, they're pumping water out to run it through a perchloride scrubbing plant. And when they get done with it, they could put it into the medians. It's right across the street, right? Wrong. They dump it in the river. So there's some opportunities that just get wasted. And all you hear is it's too expensive. We got to put pipes in the ground. Well, of course you do. We're not going to do it with buckets. So sometimes I just shake my head and And go, you guys got to be kidding. But that's what's going on. It's almost like I was driving down today. This is something totally different. I was driving down today, down Bouquet, coming back from Otna. And what's that street called now? Railroad Avenue. Why? Because it's right next to the railroad. So what did the city do? They've been planting plants all down to shield your view from the railroad. It's the kind of stuff they do. Crazy. Nuts. By the way, do you know that that area, which was Thatcher glass, is going to be developed soon? Going to be houses? There's some more. I don't know what to say.
Country Community Center planted grass.
Huh?
At the community center, the new community center, they planted lush grass to
Well,
have water.
I'll tell you what, the community center, it was very much needed here. And it's in, and this is one of the, I'm not sure I would have built as grandiose a building as they built. But the idea of having it here, I think, is good because, especially because it's almost right across the street from all those apartments, where the kids don't have anywhere to go. So if you see it, come down here any day, drive by, and you'll see that place is constantly in use, and that's the kind of things the city should be doing and thinking about. So now they're starting to have one event a month here, as opposed to one event a week in Newhall. But hopefully it will improve. Any other questions?
They have they just started up the farmer's market.
Yes.
You've gone by there.
Oh, there was a ton of people there.
There was absolutely no parking in the grand opening. Today I went by it, no parking, so,
You know what?
that's something that we have a little bit of.
No, I think those kind of things are good. I mean, and it's just like it was kind of funny. I was at an event a while back, not that long ago, maybe a couple of months ago, and I saw Marcia. Oh, it was at the awards thing at the Elks, and I saw Marcia there, right? So I said, Marcia, I walked up to her and I was just going to tease her a little bit. I said, do you remember 2008, the budget subcommittee meeting that we were at? And I knew she wouldn't remember. But in 2008, they had this budget subcommittee meeting, and I went there and I said, when are you going to build a community center in Canyon Country? And Polskamp got up and said, it never happened. We don't have enough money to staff it. It's not going to happen. Nothing's going to go on. And Marcia got up and said, Ken, we need to look at that. And so she really drove that community center here in Canyon Country, and I appreciate that.